There we go. It says live now.
What's up, my people? This is the Toronto Raptors Republic wrap-up live show. I'm your host, Adon Moss, and we got my man Manny Rao here. What's up, Manny?
What's up? What's going on, guys?
It's fitting.
Everybody?
It's fitting that that for the preseason we're filling in here. We got an amateur host, and you've been in a couple of times, so hopefully I'll be more Svi Mykhailiuk than I will be Malachi Flynn for this episode.
Of course, man. Congrats to you for taking on hosting duties too.
Yeah, baby.
That's great.
Sahal and Oren will be back for the real stuff. So we're getting our reps in right now while we can.
We got to. I love it. I like the rookies, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. So we just watched 2 basketball games in one. The first half was an NBA game, and then the second half was the Autumn League.
That's right.
A lot of broken down kind of garbage basketball, everybody trying to get theirs. So maybe we'll talk about mostly the first half for now. What stood out to you, Manny?
So what stood out to me was, again, OG Anunoby coming to life. At least, that's the overall game. Obviously, it looks like Fred VanVleet went back to the locker room with some injury of some sort. But I think the thing that stood out to me the most was probably Precious Achiuwa. He really he had 17 points, 5 boards, 7 of 11 from the field, 1 from 2 from 3. And he wasn't a shooter. He wasn't viewed as a shooter. In terms of the team play, I would say that in the first half, it was weird that the Raptors were up by as much as they were, because I didn't feel like they played that well. I felt like it was a lot of turnovers, but at the same time, the fast break. I think at one point I saw that it was 21-2 in fast break points for Toronto. So clearly, this team is best equipped to run a run and gun kind of system. So I'm really liking that, the fast pace, and it goes back to I think a lot of us have said this on Raptors Republic. We've all said that this is going to be a fun team to watch throughout the year. So that's what stood out to me, is the fast break more than anything, I think. What about you?
Yeah, it's hard not to overreact when you're playing possibly one of the worst teams in the NBA.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we'll get to OG maybe in a little bit, but what stood out to me was obviously just our defense. It was completely smothering, and really going back to OG already, his offense, but Jalen Green was completely swallowed by OG. And
100%.
Jalen Green has averaged 16 points a game, and I think in the first half, I think he was 0 for 7.
Well, he was just completely, he was rendered pretty much useless in this game. He had 5 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. So some playmaking duties, because I do believe he led the Rockets in assists along with Kevin Porter. But you're right. Other than that, 7 turnovers. So it's he was a -10. So clearly, OG, man, this is really going to be his year, I think.
Yeah,
and it's preseason, but
with the Raptors, Republicans have been saying this for some time. This is the OG year. Once we get, and you could see inklings of it throughout the last couple of seasons, and it's really just all coming together in one fell swoop, right? His offense. Well, let's just get to OG. He's scoring or nearly scoring in almost every way you'd want your primary or secondary scorer to do, right? I think the biggest fear about this team is our half court offense. And when you have a guy like OG who's breaking down equally athletic guys off the dribble, literally throwing Sengun on the floor, or bulldozing him onto the floor, or
easily,
or step back threes. He's putting together an entire offensive package before our eyes, and it's incredible to watch.
It is, and the thing that's like I remember touching on this with Zarar and Damon. I remember talking to them, and I said his first step is what needs to be the first thing that he prioritizes in the summer, and it looks like he's done that. But on top of that, I'm so thrilled to say that shot creator is another. If this are 2K, shot creator is a badge that he's added to his shelf case or his trophy case. Sorry, because I mean I was watching it, and even going back to the games against Philly, game against Boston. I mean, he's really become, he's commanding the ball and he's commanding attention, and it's unbelievable, like how, like his growth and his progression, and just witnessing it. It's like he passed the ball up a lot of the times in his rookie year and his sophomore year, but now we're at a point where he's, like you said, breaking guys off the dribble, and he's like taking it to the rack, and he's realizing how strong he is. It's amazing to see, and it's like, okay, I don't want to get too ahead of myself and saying that, yeah, the Kawhi comparisons are pretty clear cut at this point, but I mean, I just don't know where I don't know where his ceiling is. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you have an idea of where it is, go ahead and tell me. But that's just my opinion. I just don't know where his ceiling is. I think he could go. I think he gets so much better.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, I think he can. He's young and he's still not come to his full power potential. I think two things he can improve on, which we'll probably see over the course of the year, is his dribbling does need to be tighter, especially in tight spaces. And his decision making coming out of those drives, a couple of times he got himself into traffic. But I think when you're finding yourself in these spaces for the first time, it doesn't come as easily to make the right decision. So I think with the higher volume, more reps, he's going to get there. And then I would say just a quicker release, which will probably come too, just getting that ball off a little bit faster.
Yeah, definitely. I would second that. But overall, like, and I know it's only preseason, but very pleased with what I've seen from him so far.
So
definitely.
One thing that stood out to me and what I'm loving to see also is buy-in from this team. Like you see guys like Gary Trent Jr. and Svi who may not be the best defenders, but they're face guarding dudes. They're in full denial. It's a preseason game in the first half against one of the lesser teams in the league, and they are full on. And you saw Bonga come on early and do the exact same thing. I mean, this is part Nurse, and this is part Scotty, and this is part the core, and like this is the work ethic that they've established. And I think that's what's so exciting about this team is that they're all bought in, it seems.
It's a young team compared to what we're used to. They're definitely hungry, they're aggressive. And like, on the note of being aggressive, it's like they had 18 steals compared to the Rockets' 7 steals. And so that right there proves your point. You're saying they're buying in. Like they're buying into, this being a team, and, they're buying into what the ultimate goal is, which is, they're buying into the defense. They're buying into, ensuring that they eventually get to a point where they're going to, again, compete for a championship. Although it's going to be a new squad, I mean, it's like, you're right. It's like the first step is getting your players to buy in completely. And, the steals, they were aggressive on that end. 18-7 in steals. It was amazing.
Yeah. Rockets ended with 28 turnovers. So,
28.
Fred VanVleet didn't play so hot. But what's interesting about that is he finished with the highest plus minus at 20. So he was 1 for 5. He had 5 assists. And kind of, again, like just not looking like he's his smooth old self. What did you think about Fred?
I thought that he, he's the focal point when it comes to bringing up the ball now. There's not somebody that he can trust who's just as capable of creating plays as he is, and making shots as he is at this point. I think he had a level of comfort, and he was somewhat in his own comfort zone when Lowry was in the other lanes. You know what I mean? Yeah. But now he is the sole ball handler. He is the one that's going to be, playmaking. The playmaking starts with him, and so that's what it comes down to. Is that when it's now it's solely his responsibility to do that. Everyone else also, they have their role and they have their duties, and they have to be able to work within that. But at the same time, this is Fred's team. This is who he's like. Whatever happens from here on out, every offensive possession, starts with Fred. So,
yeah, I think it's kind of cliche to say, but he's going to fill that Kyle Lowry role. I think where he's not going to be your primary scorer, but he's going to score in those moments where you need him. He's going to hit those deep threes at the end of the shot clock to bail you out. He's going to get that, barrel into the lane and kind of create stuff when it's stagnant. So
right.
I'm actually not that surprised that he didn't score, and yet his plus minus was so high. It's probably encouraging to see, especially with Pascal coming back and him and OG probably taking more of the reps.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see. I saw that he has added a floater to his game, or at least is in the process of doing so. And I mean, if he can continue to capitalize on that, I mean, I think his so from his from the championship run from that season to the next season where he was slotted into the starting lineup, his shot attempts went up from 9 to about, I think it was 14. And so this is like only going to further those shot attempts. Like his shot attempts are only going to go up after that. He has that. I think he'll probably average around 18 to 21. But at the same time, adding a floater I think is going to be good for his field goal percentage and his overall efficiency, which is such a crime because there's so many things that he's great at. Defensively, his 3-point shot is still pretty reliable. It's up there at like 37-38%, but it's his field goal overall that just it's the one thing that's lagging. That's it.
Yeah, I know, I agree. We touched on Prince's game. I wrote about him earlier in the summer. It was clear in Summer League and the Olympics that this was coming down the pipeline. I think Miami knew that too, and were reluctant to give him up, but they knew they had to do it for Lowry. Does Prince replace Birch by the end of the season?
I think with Precious, I think eventually you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna have to try him out in the starting lineup, because if you don't, he's somebody that I think is going to like really blossom. He's somebody that the Raptors wanted in return for Lowry. You know what I mean? Like Dragic, he's not a long-term fit with the Raptors, at least not in my opinion. But Precious is definitely going to be, there for as long as the Raptors can have him. And the great thing is that because he's in the Raptors development system, like the sky's the limit. But in terms of like him starting over Birch, I do see it happening. I see that happening, especially in lineups where Chris Boucher might have to start as well. I think that Precious is going to get to the point where he's going to become a legitimate floor spacer, especially because he's so early on in his career. Birch is only signed for what, I think this season and then 2 more. I don't know if there's a player option or a team option at the end of his contract, but regardless, I think this season for sure, Birch and Precious, like I don't see them on a floor together as much. I could be wrong, but I definitely think Precious will start just because I think that he's more athletic than Birch. And I think that that's going to, help the Raptors when they're trying to, use their length to their advantage.
Birch is 20 million, 6 million. So I think he's 3 years.
3 years. 3 years and 20, yeah? Is it?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he gives the team a lot of versatility on offense.
Right.
I think Birch will be there for his size as much as as we can, as much as we have size in the middle. But
Right.
at some point, this could be that like Precious is just too dynamic of a player offensively to not start him when, especially at times when we're going to be challenged to get buckets.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where he's gonna factor in for sure because he's still. I think Precious is still raw. It's interesting because you have two centers that are essentially still developing. Although one is, I believe, further along. Kem is obviously further along in his development. He just has things that he wasn't able to showcase in Orlando, whereas Precious has the ability to do more, and it's just a matter of bringing him up and helping him develop along the way. So
yeah, and he's
very
showing he's showing the confidence too, right? Like he's aggressive.
Yeah.
He's aggressive and he's attacking whenever he can. There's no, and he stepped into that pull up three, like I think it was like 3 seconds into the shot clock, and canned it. So
Right.
That's yeah. I mean that's all you can really ask from a guy who's trying to develop his game.
Right.
What else we got? Svi had another good game. He's one of those guys. He's a north to south dude. Like he gets the ball and he's homing in on the rim immediately. And we don't have a lot of those guys. So, but at the same time, what's interesting about Svi is he knows when to give up the ball. And we'll get to Flynn, but this is what differentiated him from Flynn. They're both score first guys, but Svi kind of knew when to cross court pass or when to drop it off to the trailing big.
Right.
And so like he can kind of play both the scorer and the playmaker a little bit, at least for the second unit.
I think that's a really good point because going back to Svi, I think it's like I didn't expect this from him, did you? Like for him to be like such a sharpshooter.
You saw it a little, not maybe not the shooting, but in Detroit and Oklahoma, you saw little flashes of that. Like, and I came from the Lakers too, right? Like he has that athleticism. He would get to the rim. It was just kind of like tightening his finish and choosing his spots. But no, I didn't expect it like this.
Yeah, and I personally I didn't realize like he was that good in LA. I just thought he was I thought he was I knew he was a shooter, but I didn't know that he was that athletic. I didn't know that he had this in him. But I just tweeted not long ago I'm entering Svi into the 3-point contest for sure.
Kareem asks if we're starting Svi over Trent.
That's an interesting question. I think it's weird because Trent only really played well whenever he was a starter. I don't know if the coaching staff is going to try and force him to become better off the bench in situations where he has to come off the bench.
Yeah.
But I could see that happening just based on what the Raptors need. Trent, if he becomes like a two-way threat, it's going to be hard because I think Svi is best suited to be a piece off the bench.
Yeah.
But if Gary Trent remains one-dimensional where he's just shooting the ball and not driving, which by the way I think he drove enough this game. I think he drove a lot this game. Very pleased to see that. I don't know. I don't think Svi would start over Trent. I just don't see it.
I think if our bench starts to struggle early in the season, maybe you shake that up a little bit because Gary's just looking to get Gary's buckets. That's like he walks on the floor and he's immediately looking to jack, and that's okay in spaces where we don't have that guy. Svi can kind of do that too, but I think Svi's more like adaptable. I think he could fit kind of nicely into the starting lineup as a spot up shooter or off a Siakam OG drive, like getting that weak side kick and then attacking right to the rim. So I could see it.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, personally, I just don't see it right now, but maybe down the line. And then again, Nick Nurse always tries out different lineups here and there. It's like I wouldn't put it past him to conjure something up like that.
Yeah. Okay, I had some quick fire questions for you. The first one we kind of answered, which was who impressed you and who depressed you. And you kind of answered that with OG.
OG impressed me. The person that depressed me, I hate to do this. I don't know, actually, who depressed me. You know who I feel really bad for, and it's not even that they depress me. It's just, I guess, who I feel bad for. I say Gillespie, Freddie Gillespie.
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna make the opening night roster.
Yeah.
Because I think it sucks because he's such a good energy guy, but at the same time, I'm like, man, like I can't see it happening.
Yeah, well, you saw him fall into the pecking order tonight, right? He played the last 4 minutes of the game. So
yeah,
when you're up 25 and it's junk minutes for the second half, and he doesn't play most of it, it kind of seems like the writing's on the wall. And conversely, like Bonga came in early and he fit right in. It helps that he's long as ever and tall and athletic. And he fits the mold that the Raptors are trying to establish. Gillespie doesn't really.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? You look at the roster build-up, it's just long, athletic guys who could probably cover like 3 to 5 positions, and I think Gillespie's still, still pretty raw, but that's just I feel bad for him.
My depressed is Kareem's feels too. Like I'm Flynn's obviously in a rut. Whatever, he's going to work it out. I'm not too worried about that, but I'm just kind of worried about this score first attitude. Like Jack mentioned in the broadcast, like he looked off 2 handoffs to get his own shot, and he hit it, but it was like hand in his face, pull up 3. And
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I want from Flynn, but it doesn't seem to fit the mold of this team either, right? Like it almost looks like he feels like he's the ugly duckling. Like he's small. He's not this like big athletic run around dude like everybody else is, and he gets his in a certain way that the Raptors don't necessarily create for him.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to Flynn, you asked me before we even went on, but I'm a Flynn stan for sure. I think he had opportunities last year where he was able to assume the role of scorer, and I think it kind of due to the Raptors and their injuries last year and just the roster depletion in a lot of games, like he was forced into that role. Maybe he's not used to, depending on his teammates as much. And, he only had like a few games where he got significant minutes last year. So you could even argue that this could be his an extension of his rookie season rather than a sophomore season. But I do agree. I think his playmaking has been something that has been left off. But I think eventually he'll pull it up. I think what he needs to do is he needs to get a little bit more time in the 905. I think that would really help him. Just more consistent minutes,
I was going to say that like it's a tough spot psychologically because he, like you said, he got those starter minutes last year and he flourished. And then so to go back to 905 is almost like a relegation, right? But
it's like a demotion,
Yeah, exactly. But he's getting squeezed by Dragic on the veteran side of things, more reliable, and then he's getting squeezed by Banton on the backside. Whereas, that didn't sound good, squeezed on the backside, but you know what I mean. Like Banton's there, right, knocking at the doorstep. So I think he feels threatened, and I think putting him in the 905 might totally crush him, or it might invigorate him. I don't know.
I think that gets a good point. I think that Fred has a connection with it where, I think he'll be able to say, hey, man, like this isn't, a demotion, but this is so that you get more minutes so that you kind of like are able to run the ball more and you're able to practice, your playmaking. I think, Fred has taken Malak Under's wing. The only thing is, say if Goran Dragic isn't available, I mean, like, who is, the third guard in that point guard rotation? Like, you just slot like Scotty in. Do you, because obviously he's a 6'9" point guard, but is he, ready to, dictate the offense that way? I'm not sure. Do you, give the ball to somebody like Gary Trent, hoping that he can somehow manage to become a playmaker? I don't know. But ultimately, I think ultimately, like, he just needs more run in the 905. I think that's the best option for him, for Flynn at least.
Yeah, Flynn's pick and roll play is top off the bench. But I mean, do we even need a point guard? Like, if you got Achiuwa running up the court, or anybody else running up and down the court, like, I don't know if we even need a backup point guard. There's competition in camp for those final 3 spots. Who are you cutting and who are you keeping?
God, it's so hard. Okay, so who I'm gonna cut is probably gonna be easier. I already talked about Freddie Gillespie. I think he's gonna be cut. I don't feel like we've seen enough from Reggie Perry. Don't know if that's on purpose or if that's just a matter of training camp. Maybe he didn't play as much. Sam Decker, I don't think he'll make it.
Bye-bye, Decker.
I think Decker's gone.
Looks like he lost his athleticism. He
lost his athleticism.
Really
I don't really see him. I just don't see him as a defensive seed for the Raptors at all. I don't know who else I missed, but I think
you got Bonga.
Yeah, Bonga. Bonga. I think Ish, I think, is going to make it. I think Nick Nurse already said that Utah's going to make it.
Yeah,
or he's on the roster.
Utah's basically a lock.
You know what? I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing from Champagnie. He didn't play too much tonight, but he's aggressive. He only had 3 points, 2 boards, but he also had 2 steals and 1 block. So it shows you he's like aggressive. Maybe he's like a Matisse Thybulle type, where he just puts up the defensive numbers. Don't know, but I think those 3 are my bet. I don't know if I'm missing anybody else, because Svi is a guaranteed contract.
Yeah. Well, so Champagnie and Johnson are on 2 ways, so they'll probably get thrown into the 905 and go do their thing. So the guys that can really just be straight up cut are Bonga, Wainwright, Decker, and Yuta. But like you said, Yuta's going to make it. I think they're going to keep Bonga. I think Bonga just makes a lot of sense. Like I said, he's only 21, which is crazy. He's been in the league.
He's only 21, eh?
Yeah, he's super.
He was with Washington, right?
Washington. He was with the Lakers. He's been around.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
He's only 21. Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So I could see him sticking around. And then Wainwright, I feel like, is a great presence. I feel like in practice he's the guy that like really challenges the young guys, right? Like, he's got that man strength. He's got those big hands and long arms. So
yeah, I am.
If you guys haven't checked it out, Blake Murphy wrote a good thing for Sportsnet about breaking down all of the contracts and who's going where. So check that out. Who you got, Leo Rounds or Drake?
I'd say Drizzy. Drizzy's my guy. I mean, he's not my guy, but Drizzy. I'm a Drizzy guy.
I might probably be in the wrong crowd, so I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But I was shocked to see Leo had been resurrected, and kind of sad to see it as well.
Yeah.
I
mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like, Drake is just like, when he shows up, it's just like he just takes control of the commentator's booth, and they're happy to pass that commentary to him too, because he's a global ambassador still, and he still reps the team. Maybe not as hard as he used to, but at the end of the day, he's still there.
He didn't even know when opening night was or who we were playing.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit. He just loves the fame.
He he showed up in a big red fluffy coat. And then on top of that, I remember, who was it? Somebody was shooting free throws. I remember seeing him sitting there just looking at his phone. And it was just like, it was just a mute point in the game anyway. It wasn't like a big deal. But it was like the game was already over pretty much, and you just saw him in like the peripheral. I mean, like he was just staring there at his phone. But at the end of the day, he's there to rep his team. He's wearing Raptors colors. You know, he's put on for the city. I mean, honestly, like ever since he became the Golden Ambassador, Raptors have kind of been a cool team. I think some Americans will believe that. I don't know if American mainstream media will believe that, but at the end of the day, that's my opinion.
Yeah. I'll refrain. Anybody who reads my stuff, I'll take cheap shots at Drake in prose as opposed to on the channel. Leo doesn't die. First of all, he's older than Jack Armstrong, which is totally crazy to me.
Isn't that insane?
He looks like he's cryogenically frozen or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, TSN grabbed him, I guess. So he's back.
Hey, welcome back, Leo Rounds.
Any closing thoughts? We're at the 30-minute mark here.
Not really. Honestly, man, I think that tomorrow's the last preseason game. Oddly enough, it's against Washington, who's our first regular season opponent. I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of lineups. I think that's the thing that I'm most intrigued by is just A, how fun this team's going to be to watch, and B, like the kind of lineups that Nick Nurse is going to roll out. Because he's somebody that is just so innovative with his lineups, and I really do enjoy watching the different ways in which he positions his players. But I think more than anything, I'm excited to see how this iteration of the team is going to play. My expectations aren't high. Obviously, it sucks if they lose, but I'm just going to enjoy this season. I'm going to be happy with it and know that the future is bright.
I mean, you're right about the lineups. I wanted to go to like Cleaning the Glass or something and look at all the lineups that he played even in this game. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, it just speaks to the diversity of players we have. Like we can play small and big in so many different kinds of ways. It looks like, I was just looking on Twitter, it looks like a lot of guys will be shut down tomorrow. So it could be another one of these like autumn league games. And that was another thing I was going to say about this game is that a team always looks good when the other team is missing its shots, right? And I think Houston had 1 3-pointer in the first half. Philly ended with like over 20 last game. So sometimes your team can look better or worse just depending on how the other team is shooting.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure, man.
Yeah. And so we're gonna wrap it up there. That was our autumn league stint for Manny and I.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, brother.
My pleasure. Thanks for showing up. I think tomorrow's Oren, but who knows? We'll see. Everybody have a good night out east.
Take care, guys.